a brand new morning. Rise up to a brand new dawning.
Good morning, and welcome back to Good Morning Tobago right here on Tobago Updates. Now I have been in studio and having the privilege this morning, even though it's a bit overcast and chilly, to chat with Dr. Denise Tsoiafatt-Angus, political leader of the IDA. And we have been chatting on a number of issues. We touched a bit on the new proposed senior citizens bill. We spoke about some of or the crisis that is Tobago's health sector is facing and some of the investments that are proposed to be made there. And as we continue our discussion this morning, you said that there's a disconnect between the T.H.A. and Tobago's communities. Expand on that a bit.
If the Tobago, what I said is that really the T.H.A. doesn't understand the fragile Tobago economy and economics on a whole. And I go back to this example of the oncology unit. And if there were proper planning, and yes, the oncology unit has to move, should have moved for quite some time now, you build something on the 27 acres that you have close to adjacent to the hospital. You have something purpose-built. It is something that you could have utilized our Tobago contractors to build, so you begin to churn the economy for the Christmas season to ensure that, the money is circulating in the Tobago space. And so that continues not to be the priority. And I think that is one of the greatest challenges we have here, why the people on the ground are not feeling the monies. This administration has gotten the most money out of any previous administration in the past. And the decisions that they are making has not augured well to have that money really reach the people in communities. That monies, you see them spending monies in a lot of legal fees because they have terminated people prematurely and not according to industrial relations standards. So they're paying out a lot of legal fees to settle those, and there are a lot of settlement fees along with that. Recently, with this issue with the incinerator, where there's a $10 million incinerator sitting just waiting to be installed, and T.H.A. brought in someone a provider to clean up the space, and at the same time, Health has brought in a provider to clean up the space. Now, if you are giving the responsibility to T.H.A. to do their job in the health sector, why is Health bringing in somebody to clean up the body parts from the incinerator? Allow the T.H.A. to do its job. So what has now occurred is Health's provider is there. T.H.A. had to cancel their contract with their provider, and they are now being sued. Another millions of dollars, okay, for just legal fees. What could have done? How many more hampers could we have bought with those $1 million? How many more, medicines we could have bought for senior citizens who cannot afford that they don't have medicines in the pharmacy? Every little bit counts, and therefore a lot of poor decisions are going and monies are being expended in ways. Well, let's not even talk about the travel bill, okay? That has been enormous for this administration. That has also taken a lot of funds from the coffers. So when you have these decisions, and okay, if you don't have money, why are we bringing Buju? At a time when Easter is already a high point for Tobago, you don't have money, but yet we have $8 million to put together a festival for Easter weekend to give Buju and other artists from maybe outside of Tobago. How much money is going to our artists that you put on this show for? How many additional persons are you bringing in? Really? And it may eventually affect the other two festivals because, Shenell, you may decide, well, I have to save my money and go Buju. You know, I ain't going Buku this year. I ain't going Mount Pleasant. I'm saving the money to go Buju because next year, Buku and Mount Pleasant will be there next year. Again, if you don't have money, ask yourself, is Buju really going to bring in additional resources to the island at this time? We have no problem with Buju coming. We have no problem with you putting on that festival. But how many more persons are you going to bring in during already a high season for the island, rather than putting it in another space where it's considered to be a low season, and then you attract people to the island? So it's decisions like those where you say there is a disconnect. I don't know who is advising them. I don't know if they are having consultations with stakeholders, because I hoped that they had consultations with Buku and Mount Pleasant to ensure that it is not, they are not seeing it as a threat to them and how it's going to affect them. And like I said, it's not only about timing of that. Buku is on Tuesday and Mount Pleasant is on Monday, and therefore Buju is on Sunday, so it doesn't affect them. We're talking about economics.
Right. And do you think that more resources should be placed in developing the already existing festivals? For instance, that Buku goat racing and Mount Pleasant, which seems to be dwindling a bit and needs the injection of marketing and all the resources that it needs, because we're seeing a situation where people are flocking to Buku on Tuesday, but the Mount Pleasant festival is suffering a bit. And so that goes back to the representative for the area. It goes back to the village council in Mount Pleasant, and them being given the adequate resources to build out that festival so that it can be a staple here on the island.
Clearly, you should be advising them. I totally agree with that. And that is why the IDA has been really advocating for communities to have their own funds. Give the communities their funds. They will determine how much an injection they want to put into the Buku and Mount Pleasant areas to get returns on that. Yes, those festivals need to be strengthened. They have potential, and therefore you don't compete with them, but you look at ways that you can strengthen them going forward, because that is the fabric of the community. I know that when these festivals are complete, these communities take that money, and throughout the year, if somebody has a fire, they help out. If a mother, and needs a hamper with the children, they help out. They use those monies throughout the year to sustain their communities.
But personally, I think that both things can happen at the same time. Because I think the Buju Banton concert does draw a wide regional audience, not just the regular domestic tourism that we see happening during Easter. But you have a lot of members of the diaspora saying, okay, well, this is something that I'm willing to go back home for, to engage in, and can also have a positive impact on the Tobago economy. But the two things can be done.
Then what you do is make sure you give the Buku and Mount Pleasant, give them the extra resources that you think that that would have been affected by people making a choice. Give them the additional resources. But I ask you this Buju just came out a week ago, right?
I believe so.
Yeah. So it's supposed to occur in March or April?
I believe it's in April as well.
Okay. You're talking about bringing in people from abroad. How many persons from abroad can really, on a moment's notice, just say, okay, I'm jumping on a plane and coming, I'm taking time off in the next 4 months? We have to start having planning a year ahead, so you can give people time to plan, to book, to stay, whatever. There are not that many people who have fluid jobs and fluid resources where they can say, oh, Buju, let me jump on the plane and go. So we have to start having forward planning, and not just this last minute planning that plagues this administration.
Understood. And finally, we did not get a chance to chat about the fact that that Tobago autonomy bill was rejected. Well, the constitutional amendment part of it, that is. Do you think that if this bill had been passed, a situation where the senior citizens and pension was concerned could have been handled on the level of the T.H.A, separate and apart from what the national government is doing with that?
No, it would have been worse. Because that bill, the way it's written, would have been dangerous to us as it is. And the bill, as part of the Constitution, would have enshrined that whole legislative way that we have been set out, that would not have given this assembly the room to create the type of legislative framework we need in Tobago. And why we need that new legislative framework in Tobago is to protect us against things like that, that luxury villa purchase, that we have going on there, that you have levels of oversight in the Tobago House of Assembly, that you're not just giving 15 people money or 14 people a budget to manage, but that there are levels of oversight in the legislature continuously that they are looking over. You have the health sector, they're looking into health sector business, they're looking into tourism business, making sure the policies are on track and economically viable for the island. You also need to have that elected Senate to ensure that the fair distribution of resources throughout the island is done. And without that, we are a recipe for disaster, putting additional resources into an executive that is just concerned about themselves and not about the people. Like I said, this administration got a whole lot more. Where did we feel it? Where did we see it? Poor decisions were made. And therefore, given 6.98% to already, a poor decision-making team with no oversight would have been a recipe for disaster, and we could not go back and change it because it was enshrined in the Constitution.
Right.
There are things that the Tobago House of Assembly can do now that they don't need the government or a bill to do. Take, for instance, they can create an oversight committee for health, one that is supposedly independent, made up of experts, made up of civil society, made up of patients, to sit and really look at the way health is evolving, look at their strategies, look at what they're doing, and make recommendations. Yeah? And they could do that now. They could ordain it under the legislative framework, and that team reports to the presiding officer and to the House on what their findings are. And those are things that we can do now. That bill also does not bring and protect communities inside of the bill. Communities need to have their rights enshrined in the Constitution. Why? Because it is time that we have communities have a say. Like I said, we go back to Buku and Mount Pleasant. If they had their own resources, they can decide how they want to do the resources. They don't have to keep begging T.H.A at every point. Lansomi will be able to have its village festival and would not be rejected by the Tobago House of Assembly to not have its village festival that has now, demotivated the community because this is something they really wanted to do. If they had their own resources, they have their festival, they turn around the money, they make sure that the young people in the community can find work, have work, and are engaged meaningfully, that the women who do craft and the confectionaries have a space, that they have it for sale, and keep the community together, close-knit.
And there is the consensus among some that the future of this Tobago autonomy bill and the conversation continuing to happen at the parliamentary level hinges on having the right persons in the parliament, come next general elections to represent Tobago. How do you feel about that?
I'm saying that the autonomy bill rests with the people understanding their power, the communities understanding their rights. That is how we're going to get that bill passed. If people understood their power and communities understood their rights, then we can all stand up for it, and that bill would then have to get passed regardless of who is going down to parliament, because the communities and the people will be instructing those people. Now, that has not been the case in the past, because we have had people go down to parliament and we don't hear them because they are aligned with one side or another. So they have to be muzzled and they have to be measured in what they say and what they champion. And so, yes, to some extent, along with the people, it is important that we choose a candidate and candidates to go down there who will not be joining with any part of the government, but your role is to sit in that parliament and champion the issues of Tobago and the issues of Tobago that also reflect and impact the country. Because I do believe that when we talk about Tobago, it is a Tobago that contributes meaningfully to national development. Okay? So those persons will be key in understanding that they are being instructed by the communities and by the people to go down there and say, this is what we want, this is what we're doing, this is what we're voting for down there. And that is when we will be able to get it. And therefore, right now, the only party that is obviously non-aligned is the Innovative Democratic Alliance, because other parties have shown where they have favored in terms of their actions and where they are sending their contracts. They are already showing where they are aligned now, and the previous ones, well, it's obvious they're already aligned.
All right. So we want to thank you so much, Dr. Angus, for your time this morning and giving us your perspectives on all those issues. Again, we want to thank our audience for sticking with us this morning. We want to continue to thank you for your likes, your shares, and your comments, and all that you have been doing to make Tobago Updates the #1 broadcaster here on the island of Tobago. And we want to say season's greetings to you. And again, just before we go, we want to remind you that the Christmas Village at the Scarborough Esplanade is taking place and starting from today at 1 p.m. Now, the vending or the Christmas market itself happens from 1 p.m. So from 1 p.m. today, you can pass through the Scarborough Esplanade and buy whatever it is that you want to buy for your Christmas, whether it's some new plants, some new curtains, some lights, because I need to get some of those rain lights. I need some of those rain lights on the porch. So I hope that I can probably get some of those down at the village.
I know some people are actually saying, don't worry, I'm washing my curtain and putting it back up. I can't afford to buy new curtains this Christmas.
No, a lot of persons are saying that,
yes.
and
it's sad.
And based on the economic situation that we're seeing right now, we don't have money to waste. Right? But for those of you who just have that Christmas bug and you feel like you need to add a new element to your home, even if it's just a new vase.
Just think about the vendors also, because they have families to feed. So even if it's one thing you go and purchase, we all living here together.
Exactly. I probably need a little new welcome mat to wipe your foot on to come in, something that says happy holidays to you. But guys, we want to make sure that we are supporting our local vendors today. So at 1 p.m., you can go down to the Scarborough Esplanade and see what they have going on. You never know. You might be able to win a prize. And from 6 p.m., this is when the show starts, where they have a number of artists. They have Ministry in Song starting at 6 p.m. And just know that Tobago Updates have has exclusive coverage for this Christmas village. So if you are unable to come down and see the show in person, you can tune in to Tobago Updates from 6 p.m. and see all that's happening. Now, there's a lot happening on the islands here. There's a great opportunity for you and your family to get out of the house and have some fun. Now, there's the Botanics Gardens where you can go see all the lights and enjoy that. You can also go to the Logos boats, get some books for the kids, and when you get off the boat, you can go straight to the Esplanade. You see how much things are happening? We cannot complain this Christmas and say that there isn't any Christmas spirit. The Christmas spirit is well alive here on the island of Tobago. So again, guys, have a great day and see you again tomorrow.